You have big dreams. You want the business, the body, the life. You think about it constantly, but every time you sit down to actually do the work, nothing. You scroll instead. You watch instead. You wait for motivation that never comes. And the worst part, you're not lazy because you don't care. You're lazy because you care too much. And the gap between where you are and where you want to be feels so massive, so overwhelming, that your brain shuts down before you even begin. That's not a character flaw. That's a design problem. And the samurai solved it 500 years ago with a principle called Kaizen. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how to use it and why the most productive people in history weren't the most motivated. They were the most strategic about starting small. Here's what nobody tells you about ambition. Ambition without a system doesn't create success. It creates paralysis. The bigger your dreams, the more paralyzed you become, because your brain looks at the destination, calculates the distance, and decides the effort isn't survivable, so it protects you by doing nothing. Your laziness isn't weakness. It's your brain doing exactly what it was designed to do: avoid pain. The pain of trying and failing. The pain of starting something you might not finish. The pain of discovering you might not be as capable as you hoped. The samurai understood this. They had a concept: begin the blade on the stone. Not sharpen the entire blade, not finish the blade, just begin. Put the blade on the stone, because they knew something modern productivity culture has forgotten. Starting is the hardest part. Once the blade touches the stone, the sharpening happens naturally. This is Kaizen, the Japanese philosophy of continuous improvement through impossibly small actions. Not 1% better every day. That's still too big for a paralyzed brain. Kaizen says, make it so small your brain cannot say no. Want to build a writing habit? Don't write a chapter. Write one sentence. One sentence you cannot fail at. Want to get fit? Don't go to the gym for an hour. Do 2 push-ups, literally 2. Want to build a business? Don't write a business plan. Send 1 email. 1. Your brain fights big actions. It doesn't fight tiny ones. And here's the magic. Once you start, momentum takes over. The samurai didn't stop at touching the blade to the stone, but they had to touch it first. After World War II, Toyota was bankrupt. Their cars were falling apart. Their factories were chaos. An engineer named Taiichi Ohno walked onto the factory floor and didn't announce a revolution. He asked each worker one question: what is one small thing you can improve today? Not the factory, not the system, just your station, just today. One worker moved a bolt 3 steps closer, saved 5 seconds per car. Another added a small hook to stop a tool from falling, saved 30 seconds per shift. Tiny, invisible, meaningless alone, but multiplied across thousands of workers, thousands of days, Toyota became the most efficient car manufacturer on Earth. Not through revolution, through Kaizen. Your ambition is Toyota in 1945. Massive potential, terrible execution. The answer isn't more motivation, it's smaller actions. Here's the practice. Every morning, before you open your phone, you ask yourself one question. What is the smallest possible action I can take today toward my goal? Not the most impressive, not the most productive, the smallest. If your goal is a YouTube channel, maybe today's action is writing 1 sentence of a script. If your goal is a business, maybe it's Googling 1 competitor. If your goal is fitness, maybe it's putting your gym shoes by the door. That's it. That's your win for the day. Then you do it. And here's what happens. Because your brain is no longer terrified of the size of the task, you start. And once you start, you almost always do more than the minimum. The 2 push-ups become 10. The 1 sentence becomes a paragraph. The 1 email becomes 3. This is what the samurai called Ichigo Ichie. This moment fully lived. Not tomorrow's training, not last week's failure. This moment, this small action, fully executed. But there's a deeper principle here that most people miss. Kaizen doesn't just build habits, it rewires identity. Every time you complete your tiny action, your brain registers, I am someone who does this. I am someone who writes. I am someone who trains. I am someone who builds. And identity is the most powerful force in human behavior. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your identity. Kaizen quietly, invisibly, relentlessly raises your identity floor until being the person who does the work stops feeling like effort and starts feeling like simply being yourself. The ambitious but lazy person isn't broken, they're just using the wrong operating system. They're running ambition software on a willpower processor, and willpower always crashes. Kaizen is the upgrade. It runs on something far more reliable than motivation. It runs on momentum. And momentum, once started, is almost impossible to stop. So here's what I want you to do right now. Not tomorrow, not Monday, right now. Think of the one goal you keep procrastinating on, the one dream you keep saying you'll start soon, and identify the smallest possible action you could take in the next 10 minutes. Not the best action, the smallest. So small it feels almost embarrassing. And do it. Just that. Just today's stone. Because that's how the samurai sharpen their blades. Not in one session, not through heroic effort. One touch at a time, every single day. Until the day they held up the blade and realized, without knowing exactly when it happened, it had become something extraordinary. Your blade is waiting. Touch it to the stone. That's all. That's everything.